Police statistics on kidnapping paint an incredibly bleak and scary picture, with about 16 kidnappings a day. The majority in Gauteng, followed by KwaZulu-Natal. The 139% increase in kidnappings over the last decade is shocking.
3 years, at least 3 or 4 times we've been asked to get involved. We didn't always get involved.
But former head of the South African Police's investigative psychology unit says it's likely much worse.
I think we should take that as a minimum of what is out there. We do know that kidnappings in general, specifically kidnappings for ransom, have a high rate of not being reported for various reasons.
In part one of this series, we brought you the story of 3 Johannesburg teenagers who were robbed at gunpoint before the criminals had a victim call his mother with their ransom demand of 8,000 rand or they'd kill him.
It's always concerning when you get low amounts. They tend to indicate people who are not as professional in this type of business, and people who aren't professional always make me very nervous in terms of the safety of the actual victim.
Private investigator Mike Appel says the situation is out of control.
The overall kidnapping situation in South Africa and all its facets has increased immensely, and what we have seen now recently is something that's very worrying.
It would appear criminals are no longer just targeting the wealthy.
A youngster would just be taken and held for a few hours, money would be e-walleted or paid into a Checkers or a Pick n Pay, all these obscure accounts, and then released.
We know it's happening, now we need to know what to do if it does. This kidnapping victim says they tried the basics to keep the criminals calm.
My one friend, he was very aware of what we needed to do in order to prevent them getting angry at us, or prevent them. So he was very noticeable about don't look at their faces.
And then there is the question of help. Can you rely on the police or security services? Opinions are mixed.
And there was a security guard at the bottom of the hill where the car was. We found one there, and he wouldn't help us. He wouldn't let us use his phone. He wouldn't give us a lift to our friend's house or anything. And I guess even the police, they're kind of indifferent to it. The one company that was very serious about it was I think it was the tracker guys.
A tweet in response to the initial story saw this kidnapping and torture victim share his experience of the police's handling of his case, describing them as absolutely useless.
The police is unfortunately not equipped. They do not have the technology, they don't have the infrastructure to deal properly with kidnapping cases.
Labuschagne has some praise for his former colleagues, but is similarly concerned.
So the SAPS hostage negotiators are very well trained, and I think they're quite well respected internationally. My concern, though, is the attrition rate of hostage negotiators. It's a voluntary job in the police, so you do that on top of your normal day-to-day police. I think you get 400 rand a month extra for providing that service and being on standby for such when these cases take place, and that becomes your primary responsibility. But to my knowledge, my one concern is that for the past 3 years, they haven't trained new ones.
Kidnappers often demand that law enforcement not be contacted, but Labuschagne says that's up to you.
I am still a firm believer that one should get the police involved. It's ultimately your choice whether you do or don't. But if you don't get the police involved, you really need to get other experts involved.
This is the next generation DNA.
Appel says parents and businesses must have plans in place to deal with the potential situation of a kidnapping.
Make sure you record all your calls. Do not become familiar with the kidnappers. Say what you mean and mean what you say as quickly as possible. Don't become emotional. They will use that emotion. Never ever on your phone keep anything that compromises you. And that includes naked photos. It's important to profile the voice. You can hear from a person the way he speaks, whether this person is aggro, whether this person is violent, whether the kids are yelling in the background, etc., etc. You need to listen carefully. You need to know where your kids are. You need to have proper communication with your kids, where you can just press a button and it's like a speed dial, or it's like sending a location.
eNCA approached the police for comment but were unsuccessful. This growing crime trend poses the question whether specialized police units could be part of the solution. Michael Appel, Johannesburg.